And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Joel Bauer. Joel, brother, thank you for spending some time with me today.
I'm excited because we share some things in common that changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Joel has been helping people, entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners learn how to persuade, learn how to sell people, learn how to communicate, learn how to connect. Um, for 30, 40 years. So he's not a newbie by any means. He's trained some of the world's most well-known people. So we're going to dive into some deep conversations, but as we start this, Joel, I always ask one question. We'll get into the book and all that, but I mean, let's go back a few years. How in the world did you get into doing what you're doing today?
Grandfather walked me into a magic shop, Jack Shannon, 1212 Walnut, Philadelphia, where I was born. Now, this isn't going to be boring.
Okay.
The guy said to me, "How much money do you have?" This magician. I was 7.5 years old. I said, well, birthday party, whatever, $12. I have $12, which was a lot of money. I mean, I was born in 1960. And he said, "Give me your money and I'll show you what you bought." Now, you tell me if that's not the most direct close, and that must have been a prescription for my future. I end up on cruise ships at 13 because I had was able to communicate and go from my insecurity to at least being able to frame something an audience could consume, and they would hire me. I was on the ships for over 11 years. My formal education, not a whole lot, but my specialized education in managing people on ships, which was group management, addressing, selling, closing, speaking, intimately connecting from the cruise directors that I was groomed by. And then, of course, I ended up on my own ships in a lead position. I got off because I knew I'd never have a family. And then the only thing I was prepared for was what my mother had demonstrated, because she'd never taken me anywhere other than to the broadcast BPA, Broadcast Promotional Association trade shows. And I said, wait a minute, these skills I have on the ships that I've honed and refined under fire might work on the trade show floor in creating the crowd, conveying the message, framing the message, collecting the leads for these companies, which would become sales. And so I did that for over 16 years under fire and was doing at that time like big money. I had found a way to frame. I realized that these corporations are spending a fortune. They have an always present budget for the trade show. So if you can speak, teach, and close under fire, stack, speak, teach, and close. And to this day now, I transition. I found myself on the trade shows during the pandemic, but then, it changed. It was massive. I was in Atlanta, the second tower, the pandemic, I'm out of order there, but that was another change. But during the Twin Towers, when the second tower fell, I called my wife and I said, we're going to have to reinvent again. And we had another child on the way. So literally, I said, the shift will be teaching these skills to corporate America. The accounts that I have, their people don't know how to do this. Their CTOs, their CFOs, their CMOs, all the animals on their farm do not particularly handle the stage well or the internet well, their communication initially. So, when you look back at your life, Steve Jobs talked about this, and I worked with Apple 15 years on the trade show floors. Steve Jobs indicated that you can't connect the dots until you look back. So everything I've done leads us to this moment where when you ask me questions, whatever they are, I'll take you to actual actionable moves that'll produce results for your listeners on differentiating them in the marketplace as the only logical choice, both online and offline, where they can monetize their life experience, their hobby. They can literally monetize anything, even if they're launching or IPOing a company. They can get some real hardcore tools and tactics here that they're going to be able to apply. And they may not even have to take a ton of notes because a lot of it's common sense, but it's not common.
That's right. Yeah. Uncommon common sense.
Yeah.
Um, and that's good because you said a word there that I love, which is differentiate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as I work with entrepreneurs, Joel, I look at their websites, I go to their Instagram, and they all sound like Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
They're all the same. They're in a sea of sameness. You did something a few years ago that you and I were talking about the commonality we have. You were making a couple $100,000 a year, but you did something that differentiated you that
Yep.
really moves the needle that we want to talk about here and how our audience why they should follow that mold, but how they should use something like that to really differentiate themselves as we talk about persuasion.
Well, when you decide on a podcast and I see your expertise and your prowess with the number one differentiator out there, this is an authority positioning tool. So a lot of people can't see this necessarily, but they can hear that I'm holding a book.
Yeah.
And this book, this title, and I'm not trying to sell books here because
Right.
all proceeds were given to Make a Wish Foundation. So I
Uh,
never derived a dime from this. That's not what this is about. Having the book got me on 61 television shows out of the gate in 2 months. So I was on tour. My income went from $237,000 to 2.2 million. And my wife was very upset because she didn't know the tax plan. So here she is with all this new money that's coming in. We don't know why. And she said, "What did you do differently?" I said, "Well, I didn't change the way I dress. I didn't change my tonality or modulation or inflection when I speak to people. I didn't change what I'm teaching. But I did do television, radio, newspaper, and magazine, which now has a shelf life of forever on the internet and beyond." And that was it. It was the book, the single number one converting tool that positioned you as an authority. And Michael, I just like telling you this, but I met a lot of authors, and it's amazing the authors who talk about real estate don't own any. The people that talk about being rich and they're not.
yeah.
Make sure that when you put a book out, I'm not talking to you, I'm just
Right.
speaking to your audience, make sure you can actually deliver the goods. So this book, they named How to Persuade People That Don't Want to Be Persuaded. This book I know because my daughter's 33 now, and she was 12, and she modeled for certain pictures in the book because that was a really inexpensive way to get an extraordinarily beautiful model. And I must tell you that when I recently, I'd say about 6 years ago, I added something to the books that really made a difference. May I have permission to share some of these
I would
insights?
absolutely. I would love that, Joel.
I reduced the book size now down to 12 pages.
Hmm. There you go.
So, what I've learned is even though having a book like this can be incredibly valuable and it positions you as an expert, there aren't that many people reading in detail and they're
Hmm.
looking for a visceral, palpable experience when they meet someone. And so, the book I'm holding here we use as a lead gen. And the
Yeah.
book I'm holding here at the end, if you want, I'll tell you where they can get this for free with no hooks, no upsell, no back end, no expectations. And it'll show them how to do this. So each page of this book is made out of business card stock.
Okay.
So, number one, you need to have your book online as well if it's a lead gen.
Right.
This book is not designed to teach them a lot of things, it teaches them three things where they can present themselves in a way that's unforgettable, where they can persuade those who are shut down, who normally would ignore them, and they can preserve those mission critical relationships and manifest monetizing profit. They actually monetize as a result of what they learn in here. So if someone puts out a book, they need to get real clear, in my opinion. And remember, this isn't like some of the books that you expertly teach them how to empower themselves with. That's the book that leads to their course. This book absolutely closes and creates engagement and a relationship from the first point of contact because they will not read 275 pages, but they will look through 12.
Yes.
Now you'll notice, because they can't see this, but there's
Right.
pictures on every single page. It starts out emotional, that there's an actual structure. So when I show them this book is the book that opens the door. And this
Hmm.
book will get consumed because on every other page, there's a QR code. And
Amen.
when they scan their phone in 2 to 3 minutes, they learn the lesson, which leads them to the end of the book, where after learning these three things to present, persuade, and preserve. So if all of them can condense their message down and really frame themselves with these three moves, And the three moves I teach in here are the three moves to persuade. They're persuasion techniques that are ethical and moral. At the end of the book, there's a complete presentation here, which they were driven to through all those other videos where they get to hear you speak, teach, close ethically and morally for about an hour. Now, if they don't want to listen to that, they can go right to a member of your team or you in a high ticket closing call where you solve a major problem for them in maybe 15 minutes. And that's what my staff does. Now, I don't handle those anymore, but when I did, the conversion was extraordinary. And in a world of overload with AI and beyond, we need to do something that differentiates themselves. So this has worked for, my God, I'm 65 now, and I've been using these principles actively and interactively from about 31, where it started to I mean, the impact was incredible. And money was no longer a concern. That's how effective these techniques, because I had a flow of clients that increased my perceived value,
Right.
and they would invest more because it positioned you as an authority. So anyone training with you, and when I was listening to Why a Category of One or using direct response to reach, you got some amazing interviews on these podcasts.
Thank
And
you.
if they'll invest their time and really and review these things, one of them I listened to twice because it was like, wait a minute, I got to take notes on that move, that move. You've got some people really tipping their hand the way that I'm happy to do right here. If they don't have a book, they're making an error. It is the first move in persuasion because it positions you, even if you're a total idiot, as an expert. And there's a lot of idiots out there with books, but if you actually have something backing it, I don't say this disrespectfully to
Right.
your audience, make sure you can deliver on what it is you represent. Real
Yeah.
important, essential.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Substance is so key to that. And I'm glad you said that. And I love what you're showing there, because we've got a whole program, lead generation magnets, that are ours are 25 pages. They're
Yeah,
online, but they can be printed, because it is that first step. Here's one of my banes of my existence. We're talking about persuasion, folks, okay? And you started that out with emotion, which I love, because
yeah,
all decisions are emotional. Here's the other bane of my existence right now is when I go to a website for a business owner, and the real estate right there in the center of the page is schedule a free consultation with me. And I
exactly.
contend that it's too soon for that, because
Yeah.
I'm
Why?
researching you.
Yeah. Why? Why would we schedule a consultation with you when you haven't
Absolutely.
won us over?
Right.
I've got a
Versus,
solution for you.
yeah, well, versus download this short mini book, this 12
Yeah,
page,
exactly.
that will help you understand how to. They get that. Now they're in your world. Now you can work with them to persuade them to take that next step. It is a stepping
Yeah.
stone process that business owners, they don't want to go through.
Yeah. Um, when someone goes to myname.com, they can figure that one out, joelbauer.com. There's not a promotion for me here. I'm just saying
Okay.
when they go there, at the very top of the page, they're going to get a hardcore lesson. And then at the bottom of the page, they're going to understand that there's two lead gens that absolutely ensure that your website doesn't need a lot of traffic. It needs that when people go there, it actually converts. At the top of the page, there should be an interview with someone whose life you've radically changed. And if you're financial, if you provide a financial solution or an emotional breakthrough, taking them from depression to exaltation to perhaps transcending their self imposed limitations, and now they're in a form of enlightenment because of your emotional cathartic process, or if you are physiological in your transformation, you could take them from cancer 4 to cancer no more, or you eliminate inflammation. So it's either financial, emotional, or physiological. Those are the only three categories that exist. Someone has to figure out which one they fall under, and they have to put their expertise out there. So when they go to the website there, it says persuasion and the 10 moves that made Peng Joon over $10 million out of the gate when he failed with every other trainer. So here's this gentleman, Peng Joon, who's a very well-known, world-renowned internet marketer. When I met him, I think he was barely 30 years old. And he made over $10 million out of the gate applying 10 principles of mine. He reveals them in this interview that I did with him in Malaysia, because I trained him in Singapore and Malaysia and also the United States here. And he breaks them down. So right out of the gate, they're not listening to me. talk about how great I am. If they want to make $10 million dollars or $1 million or $100,000, they're listening to his story. We are no better than the people we train. If your students don't success, if they're not succeeding, if they don't monetize, they can't make a living, they can't contribute to their family, you got a real problem there. So right out of the gate, they learn these 10 principles through him in an interview where I just ask him, would you mind revealing the 10 top moves? Then when they scan down the page and you have your credibility and your testimonials, at the bottom of the page is the lead gen. And that would be your 25 page or 12
Right.
page really call to action book that allows them to potentially engage you. And you've created so much value through the video, through the MP. So they can go to the MP4, they can listen to it, they can watch it. You give them, they can download it. There's a shortcut that takes them through the 10 things he's going to talk about, because a lot of people, due to TikTok and a TikTok mentality, they don't have attention spans now. Nanoseconds, kind of scary. So you make sure you've covered that. And then in between, when they're scrolling, they end up on another gift. So everyone should be sandwiching on their site, on their main page, on their landing page, on any page that communicates. They should have the answer through one of their students. And if they don't have a student of their process, then they need to give it away,
Yeah.
train someone, and in return, ensure that person is going to translate how they did it in a micro interview of anywhere from 10 to 30 to 45 minutes where there's real value. Then the site becomes a training facilitation. It engages people. And that level of persuasion, it not only works, but you don't need a ton of clients. People think they have to post all day long and go crazy and have no life and so much. No, they need qualitative. And in order to close high ticket, where you see, the more people invest in what you do, the more they take it seriously. They don't implement when it's free. They implement when they've got skin in the game.
Yeah. I've one of the phrases I use is, I'm very big on building trust, because I work with high ticket, clients, but trust is imperative. And one of my phrases, John, I'd love your feedback on it, because I think it plays into what you're talking about, is trust is a factor of time. How much time
Yep.
do I
Yep.
spend with you?
Yep.
And the challenge I have with TikTok and LinkedIn and all these other things is there's no time. I'm off to the next
Correct.
thing.
Yep.
But when I land on your page and I invest 8, 10, 12, 15
Yep.
minutes,
Let me I am so in alignment with you. I mean, we might as well be brothers, because for example, I was just invited to speak on a stage, and 99.9% of our business is online now as a result of the pandemic that I mentioned earlier. That
right.
was the transition. No one had a choice. We had a couple $1 million in people that paid for events, and we were going to cancel them. And I said to my wife, Cherie, I have to find a way to emotionalize this, because I know at live events, no matter how many times they click from place to place, it doesn't replace face to face. How am I going to do that online? And I cracked the code. And it was using free software called OBS. And it was figuring out just how to have a couple camera angles that would break the moment and allow me to stand, sit, relate, bring them in. I actually found a way to bring in the students next to me. So when I was speaking to them, all they had to have was a green screen behind them, and they were instantly sitting next to me in front of a microphone that wasn't even theirs. And so they forgot they were online. It became, I came up with these techniques that were wonderful, and I've been using them ever since. But when we talk about trust, they're not going to trust you in a 45-minute webinar. They're not going to trust you in a 3-hour workshop. Let me tell you where they trust you. They trust you online. So here's the prescription. I went to this event just about a week and a half ago, and they wanted me to sell something from the stage. And I said, may I have permission to only allow the audience to engage at $29, and all monies will go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where a child is about to die and we get to fulfill a wish. It's kind of something that everyone can relate to. There's a problem, there is no solution, but we can do something nice, something that will make a difference. And most people don't know what they want. These children know what they want. So I said, from that scan on a badge, that's all they have to do. I'll give them a backstage pass. So everyone's walking around wearing my badges, backstage pass. Everyone wants to go backstage. I did 2 sessions and I didn't make a dime. But 80% of the people in that room showed up for my event online last week, which is a 5-day event, 8 points of contact, hour and a half a day. And that built a relationship. Now, I really want people to listen to this because doing it any other way may be effective, but ineffective compared to what they could have done. When someone shows up at 8 points of contact, teaches you a process that's going to change your life financially, emotionally, physiologically, one or both, or a combination thereof, you have a relationship.
Yeah.
And then when you disconnect at the last point, after you've fulfilled every promise you made, when you disconnect, it's painful.
Right.
Because now the voice of reason, the person that they would like to be able to trust, that they now know they can trust that you'll show up on time, you'll end on time, you'll deliver, and you'll over deliver on your word. And so from that event, without selling anything, oh yeah, no, I give them a full week, hour and a half a day, hardcore, 5 moves to monetize for that particular process. Give, 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 give. And then I tell them, if you would like to know how to work with me in the next year, 100% money back guarantee. I'll even pay you if you fail. Then I'm only going to do 1 session after the event's over on that Friday. It's called a breakout session. And then they come there, and it was all of them, all of them. And then they're all applying for our attentions, and we do not take their money at that point either. Then they enter into a conversation with a member of my team or myself, depending upon who it is and how qualified they are. And the conversion levels are frightening. Now,
Yes.
anyone that doesn't do this, anyone's not achieving results right now, you're not in rapport, you're not in trust, you're just another talking head that's bombarding them in 50 minutes with a webinar, or worse than that, you're doing it automated. And automated can be effective to a degree. I mean, we do all those things,
Right.
but most effective is showing up, letting them know, timestamp, this is where I am. I'm broadcasting. I'm here in my home right now. You know, this is a podcast setup. Like, this is all orchestrated in terms of
Right.
there's the picture and the lighting. It's all by design. You decide on how you want to frame what you do, and the results are extraordinary. We do not have to spend a lot of money on advertising. It's mostly all organic. We can do both, and it's relatively effortless. It becomes a turnkey rinse and repeat where you get to give, 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 give ethically and morally with integrity. And the audience reaches out and says, okay, this is something that I may be able to trust. Now, I didn't say they trust you after 7 days, but you have built a relationship. Trust, as you indicated when you framed it, is the result for about a year of never letting them down. And there's a point where they just trust you because you earned it. And there
Yes.
is no shortcut. I just gave you the short. I'm not you. I'm talking to your audience as well.
Right.
I just gave you the shortcut. I don't do anything that doesn't build a relationship. So if that producer of that event, who happened to be one of my students, a graduate doing incredibly well, they allowed me to do a 2-step versus most people, they're hungry for the now. Well, the now, sorry, doesn't work well. I might have had one person at that event or 2 people invested high ticket because they're not desensitized. They don't know the value. Once they desensitize on, oh my God, he is not expensive. She, he, she, they, them, they're not expensive. What's expensive is not having this knowledge and this experience, which I need to take ownership of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the delaying the sale. Dan Kennedy talked about this years ago in a lot of his books, right?
Yep.
It's not being so hungry that I have to have the sale today. And most people aren't ready today to buy.
Yeah.
I'm ready to learn
Yeah.
and to see, are you, and the word that came out, Joel, as you were going there, the word that came to my mind was genuine,
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. This is a podcast. So, right, this is an audio mechanism where they're primarily listening. But if they could see how conversational I am when I work a live event and online. It's a conversation with the audience. I call it the conversation to conversion. You're
Mm,
speaking not at them, you're speaking to them as if it's one on one. And so if you just heard the shift in my tonality, they need to learn to speak to one person, even if they're in front of a coliseum. We used to do 25,000 people a day with Get Motivated and other companies I worked with. And the coliseums are very impersonal because first of all, you can't see the audience. But I always walked off the stage. I'd walk through the audience whenever possible, and I would put my hand out. Someone put their hand in my hand, shake their hand, or touch their shoulder with permission.
right.
All touch is appropriate when it's backed by the right intentions, and all touch is inappropriate. But when you touch one, you touch all. And so, in order to connect with them and touch them, as you mentioned, emotion is everything. If someone is logical, but they get a bad feeling, it'll completely derail anything they were about to do. And it's the one objection you cannot overcome. If they just get this horrible feeling about you, it doesn't matter what contract they signed, it doesn't matter what agreement frame they're in, they are, in many cases, done. And
Yes.
that's almost impossible to fix. And I should know because I train people in overcoming objections by not having them surface to begin with. The
Yes.
objection should be overcome in the framework of that person's connection, their presentation, their structure. And then at the end, there are no objections. You've already overcome them. You've diffused them before they were ever head on embraced.
Yeah. Here's a phrase that I learned from a sales trainer years ago. I don't even know who it was. And you may know. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And I've embraced that in
I
in
like that.
in in our process, Joel, before a podcast, before a sales call, I'm sending videos out to them that they're watching to explain who we are, what's the process, answering
Mhm.
questions, giving them pricing, so that when we get to the sales call, it's a conversation to say, how can I help you? And you know a lot. You've got some questions. Let's talk. And it's a very casual conversation. 3 or 4 years ago, it was a sales call, Joel, and I had my. I've totally gotten away from that, and I just have conversations. And there are some people that it's like, this is not a good fit for you. This is not the right thing for you to do. Here's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up.
Mhm.
And people go, wow, I'm it's the right thing to do, but when you show up and you're just conversational and you're not needy,
Mhm.
they connect with you at a different level, and they come to the conclusions themselves that you're the right person, you're genuine, you're honest, you're reputable, you're the type of person I want to work with.
Yeah.
I might not be able to right now, but I really like you.
Yeah, we're on the same page because you absolutely do not want to be hungry. If the audience suspected at just that last event, just over a week ago, in front of an audience, and I was given 3 points of engagement at that event, and I want people to write this down. If you're ever doing events, because we also teach people how to run their own events, or you're
Mhm.
a participation in someone others. When I got there, I packed in my little suitcase a backup PA system, very small, and a
Mhm.
projector. And sure enough, their projector wasn't that great. And I said to them, "Would you like to burn a hole in that screen, like something that will be vibrant?" And really, so now I'm not just the speaker, but I'm able to solve a problem. I also was carrying some extra cords, and they didn't know how to get rid of the hiss. So your knowledge of your industry, that specialized knowledge, puts you in a position now where they don't perceive you just as the speaker, but someone that can help them put on a better event. They gave me 2 other speaking positions. So everyone else got one. They gave me 6 times the amount of time, which allowed me to engage. So I want everyone to kind of write this down, that the amount of time you spend is mission critical in manifesting any kind of, again, relationship with the audience. Whatever you can do to have more time with them and to create real value. Now, the other speakers were trying to sell stuff. I walked out and I said, he brought me out to a standing ovation. I said, ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. Let me earn it. A
Mhm.
standing ovation is the result of giving everything you have. It's not about talent. It's about giving everything you have where the audience knows they can do something they didn't know how to do before, and they have permission. So if I earn that, fine, but sit down. And then I walked off the stage. No other speaker did this. And I'm with them. I'm in the
Mhm.
aisle. I'm on their level. I'm not being patronizing and condescending. So whether you're online or offline, if they create this intimacy, this engagement, everything you're talking about here, building trust, the desire to, the relationship basis. Why would I want to look at their book? Well, obviously, they're a presence that just by their very intention, I can just tell this is someone I can relate to. So, you don't want to lecture, you want to speak to them and immediately have them do something or know they can do something that's going to make a huge difference in their life that night.
Yes.
So everything needs to be actionable
I
immediately.
love it. I love it because so many times when people are speaking on stage, webinars, whatever, we're just waiting for the pitch at the end, right? Versus, no,
Yep.
no, I'm here to teach and educate and equip you. And I love the multi-day thing because I can imagine saying, okay, we're at the end of day one. Here's your action point. Go do that. Come back tomorrow. We've got another one, and we're building the 5 point, right? People want to learn, but they want to do, but they want to hang around people who are adding value to them that
Yep.
they can trust. And everything that we've talked about, Joe, I love this because we've gone down a lot of trails. They're all talking about persuasion because persuasion begins with relationship.
Yep.
It's
Would you, I don't know how much time you have, and I can keep it pretty short, but I'd like to give them the two most powerful techniques that they can do live
yeah.
and also online.
Yeah, let's do that. And then I know you've got a gift, and I want to talk about that. And then I want to say, how can people get a hold of you, get in touch with you? Because what you're sharing is so in alignment with what I teach and preach. It's great. So yes, at
You're
two techniques, absolutely.
you're very kind. And I've done, let's say, a handful of podcasts, and very often it's really just about them. And I don't even promote, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Just being visible. I love the fact that I'm allowed to share what I have with your group that actually works,
Absolutely.
not theory. I've omitted everything that doesn't work. So the first technique is, and I'm not demonstrating it here, this is a quarter zip, how you package you, how you
Yeah.
dress. Massive. Now, online, if I was sitting here with a suit and tie or a jacket, it might be a little overkill for a
Yeah.
podcast behind the scenes, but they are judging you. They are taking you apart. At that event, I was the only one in a beautifully cut suit with tie, open collar as well, alternating. I took it off after I introduced myself. And how you are packaging yourself online, absolutely mission critical. Number two, when they ask you, what do you do? What are you into? What are you about? I don't tell them.
Hmm.
I hand them or show them. So your opening video. So if it's live, I hand them my huge phone. Okay. So I have my personal phone. I don't hand them that. I hand them a huge Android. I carry an iPhone, but I have this little Merce and it's about a 9-inch screen and I hand it to them and it plays for 50, I said 59 seconds. So they ask me
Right.
what I do, what are you into, what are you about? This happens every day. And I just hand it to them and it's on. And in 59 seconds, they're transported into the results of others.
Yeah.
These micro testimonials, because they live vicariously through the words and actions of others. That's a line from Robert Cialdini. And so
Mhm.
if I quote someone, you give credit to the source. Don't take someone else's information. Robert Cialdini, I've never heard that said better. We live vicariously through the words and actions of others. So
Mhm.
instantly they understand the result you generate. And that's all you are
Mhm.
to them. What result? What will happen? People tell they want to tell their story. No one's interested in your friggin' story. What they're interested in, not the first point of contact, what they're interested in is what would they be able to do through you, achieve, receive, shift in what they believe, what immediately would take place. And so those are just two techniques. We only have so much time. I told you that I had some gifts, and they're real gifts. Should I? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I would love
okay.
for you. You have my permission to share your free gifts. Frame a little bit, tell them what it is, where to get it, and all of that. Absolutely.
Well, in alignment with what we have been sharing here, I'd like to give them more because this is limited and this is still, and they don't realize that what sounds simple here is what actually works.
Hmm.
Everything we're talking about works. If they go to joelbauer.com, at the top, they'll learn how Peng Joon made $10 million out of the gate and failed with every other big name trainer in monetizing. Now, the other trainers were great. They were very entertaining and empowering, but it didn't work. It didn't monetize. If it doesn't monetize, you're going to have trouble making a living. And ultimately, you're going to compromise your life, usually for someone else's benefit. When you scroll down joelbauer.com to the bottom, you have this little 12 pager,
Hmm.
and they can access it online. They can download it, but they'll understand how to construct and how to turn to someone like you and make sure they get that book done, because that's the lead gen. That's the credibility builder. So that's the first gift. 12 pages with the interactive video all there, and they'll see how to set it up. The third gift, which is massive, is a $5,000 course I would like to gift them. So if they go to at Joel Bauer Mentor, Mentor, all together, it's one word, at Joel
Okay.
Bauer Mentor, and they DM 5 moves, 5 moves, the number 5 moves. We will send them the 5 moves to authority. Now, this is amazing. This course will differentiate them. It'll take them 3 hours to complete. They can move at their own pace and their own grace. We took it sells for $5,000. We're just giving it to them, and there is nothing they need to buy. I want that your podcast had made a difference today in their life, and they receive real gifts and tools. No AI required, no
That's
high tech required. Simple tools and techniques that have worked for the last 45 years, as long as I've been training people in live events, both offline and then online, with massive success.
That's awesome. Joel, thank you, first of all, for on my behalf for providing great value, not just in the 12 pager, not just in the course, but through the conversation. And I do want my audience, I really encourage you to just go back and listen to this again and again, because what Joel's talking about, the reason this has worked for 45 years is because we are all speaking and teaching and engaging and building relationships, whether you're on a stage, on a Zoom, or in person across the desk for somebody. We're building relationships, we're spending time, we're elevating trust, and we're getting to the place to say, you have a challenge in your life. I have an opportunity to solve that. Can we work together? And when you learn the ways to do it, these 5 moves and everything, you're going to be better at it. You're going to be more focused in your business, and you're going to end up generating more revenue for your family, for your business, as you serve people with the right intention. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah. Can I leave you with just one original phrase that I live by?
Yes,
And
please.
it's not motivational or inspirational. It's absolute. With certainty, I tell them that if they do this, it will change everything. Never move faster than the audience's speed of consumption, whether it's one on one or one on many. You need to stay in the feedback loop. It's the entire key. The key to a great speaker, great communicator, someone who connects, is that they were with you in the moment and they didn't move faster. We're living in times now where everyone thinks they need to compress it in 30 seconds. The client that needs it compressed in 30 seconds, I'm not interested in them,
Yeah,
because I'm not going to transform their life in 30 seconds. But if they give me some intimate time,
right.
few hours, I can change everything, the way they're perceived, conceived, received, and whether or not they're believed. It's a big
I
deal.
love it. Joel Bauer, thank you. I can't wait to engage my audience. I want to have everything that we talked about, not only in this episode, but in the show notes. Please reach out to Joel. I'm going to have the links to those free gifts that you've been generous enough to offer to us, and go take him up on that. Get the information from his website. Watch the video there on the top of his website. Spend some time with Joel and allow him and his principles to impact you in your life. Joel, brother, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do with such integrity and for so long. You've impacted millions of people, and you've impacted my life and my honest. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it.
You've been very kind. Thank you. And Michael, I hope to be able to give you a hug someday, see you in person. I was very, very impressed, and I'll continue listening and
Thank
learning
you.
from the people you're bringing forward. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you for listening to Expert Speak. I appreciate you being here every week. Tune again next week. Take care. God bless.